It's Wednesday, April 29. This is the news on PBCJ. I'm Carol Francis. Prime Minister Andrew Holness says the Length Man program will commence shortly to ease the economic shock that has sparked negative economic forecasts. A precise date was not announced.
We would implement the Length Man program for the preventative maintenance of our infrastructure asset. The program will utilize community labor and will commence with high traffic corridors and inter-parish roadways. And I had presented here those areas that have been mapped out.
A pilot project will be undertaken to identify weaknesses.
The selected corridor would be the Dunrobin Avenue to Twickenham Park corridor, and this would encompass Washington Boulevard, Dunrobin Avenue, and the entire length of the Mandela Highway project. And this will span about 5 constituencies. Certainly it would span northwest, northeast, western, west central, and then it would span about maybe 1 or 2 constituencies in St. Catharines. So probably about 7 constituencies in all.
The Prime Minister made the declarations after announcing the establishment of the Economic Recovery Task Force. The task force will comprise academics and industry leaders as the driver to re-engage the gears of the economy. As jobs are being lost and businesses shuttered, the International Monetary Fund has projected that the Jamaican economy could contract by 5.6%. And the Ministry of Labour and Social Security is working with employers to retain workers as the country continues to grapple with the economic and social fallout from the coronavirus COVID-19. Permanent Secretary in the Ministry, Colette Roberts-Risden, has reportedly been meeting with employers and trade unions to discuss strategies to prevent the layoff of workers. However, where layoffs are unavoidable, Mrs. Roberts-Risden is reminding employers to be guided by the provisions of the Employment Termination and Redundancy Payment Act. The Act outlines the circumstances under which long-serving employees are compensated for the loss of their jobs in the form of a redundancy payment. Under the Act, a statutory redundancy payment is due where an employee is made redundant with at least 2 years of continuous service. Seasonal workers may also be entitled to a redundancy payment in circumstances where the seasonal worker has been employed for 2 or more consecutive seasons on a continuous basis. The construction industry is to be added to the exemption list under the Disaster Risk Management Order. That announcement came from Prime Minister Andrew Holness during his address to Parliament on Tuesday.
Construction is an area where we can get quick projects going. We are therefore amending the Disaster Risk Management Order number 4 to allow for persons employed or contracted to undertake construction by any person or entity to whom a license or permit to carry out such construction is issued under any law to be included in the relevant exemption schedules under the Disaster Risk Management Order. So what that means, Mr. Speaker, is that the construction industry is now considered an exempted industry, and that they should be able to move about during the period of the curfew, subject to the rules, which would be that they are moving to go to work.
He says the sector must adhere to the general anti-COVID-19 measures.
It doesn't mean, Mr. Speaker, that they are not under the general health rules. So they are still required to wear a mask. They are still required to maintain social distance. They are still required, that is now the contractor or the employer, is required to provide at the work site the necessary hand washing and sanitization stations. In terms of gathering. It might be difficult on a construction site to enforce the gathering because of the nature of how construction work is. So we will not enforce the gathering rule of 10, but they must, in gathering, maintain the social distance. So on a construction site, there is usually enough space that you can maintain your 6 feet apart and even more.
Mr. Holness says that the construction sector is vital to economic activity and should not be unnecessarily hampered at this time. $168 million in medical supplies has been donated to the National Health Fund's NHF. The ISSA Trust Foundation and its international partner, Direct Relief, donated the funds. The donation, which comes at a time when Jamaica's COVID-19 cases have surpassed the 350 mark, includes asthma inhalers, antibiotics, diabetes and mental health and immune suppression medications, and intravenous IV fluids. Chief Executive Officer of the NHF, Everton Anderson, says both the ISSA Trust Foundation and Direct Relief must be commended for lifting the bar in their response to a pandemic that has been wreaking havoc on economies and healthcare systems across the world. Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton says that based on the findings of an initial investigation into the death of Jodie Ann Farron, the Victoria Jubilee and the Spanish Town hospitals were not found to be culpable of any foul-ups that led to her death. Dr. Tufton made a statement to the House of Representatives on Tuesday.
Based on our administrative review, Mr. Speaker, to date, on the sequence of activities surrounding this case and the reports received, it is to be noted that our initial assessment is that both the Victoria Jubilee Hospital and the Spanish Town Hospital, based on those reports that have been given and an examination of those reports, that both institutions initial assessment is that both the Victoria Jubilee Hospital and the Spanish Town Hospital adhere to the established procedures as it relates to the transfer of patients from a private facility.
Ms. Farron was initially a patient at the Andrews Memorial Hospital and was reportedly denied admission at 2 hospitals to which transfers were requested after she began displaying respiratory symptoms similar to those of COVID-19. She later had her baby at the Spanish Town Hospital. After giving birth, she was transferred to the University Hospital of the West Indies. She died hours later. Dr. Tufton says the ministry will review its protocols to see if improvements are needed.
It is my considered view that with the support of the private and public health sectors, as well as our regional and international partners, we have been and will continue to work to improve the resources in all our hospitals. As such, and as the need arises, we will again look at the protocols to determine areas where there can be improvements to the extent that those improvements can be made, Mr. Speaker.
Dr. Tufton says the Health Ministry will be cooperating fully with the criminal investigation into the death of Ms. Farron. And the autopsy of Jodie Ann Farron will reportedly be done today. The attorney representing her family says the autopsy was delayed from Tuesday to facilitate the police probe. The Jamaica Constabulary Force will now have oversight of the post-mortem. The family will have an independent pathologist present. A team of officers assigned to the Narcotics Police Division seized a quantity of cocaine at the Norman Manley International Airport on Tuesday. The lawmen were doing their routine checks when shortly before 3, they reportedly found 6 boxes of Easter buns wrapped in transparent bags and 3 plastic containers of cheese. On closer examination, it was discovered that the items contained cocaine. They were reportedly to be placed on a flight destined to the United States of America. The weight of the illicit drug has not yet been ascertained. No one was arrested in relation to the seizure. farmers' markets play a critical role in providing fresh, nutritious, and locally produced food products to customers. However, the advent of social distancing measures brought on by COVID-19 has forced some players in the crop sector to get more creative. Ever heard of a drive-through farmers market? Neither have we until now. Marlon Samuels tells us more.
Shopping in markets calls for interactions. However, farmers needed to rethink how they could get their fresh produce to the public in light of the coronavirus COVID-19, which calls for social distancing. The Agro-Investment Corporation came up with a great solution, a drive-through farmers market. Jamaica's first drive-through farmers market was held today at the AMC complex on Spanish Town Road in Kingston.
The suppliers are the people who are on our agro parks. We have 224 investors on the parks, meaning the government have what we call agro parks. We manage them. So on the parks, you have irrigation, you have technical support, you have tractor, and we invite investors to come and lease 10 acres, 50 acres, 100 acres, 200 acres. And so those are the persons we're supporting in terms of getting their products to the consumer today.
The turnaround time for drive-through purchasers was mere minutes. Drivers paid and was handed their fresh produce bag, which includes lettuce, cabbage, sorrel, Scotch bonnet peppers, and melon. Purchasers had a choice of a 20-pound or 25-pound bag.
We're trying to broaden what we have to offer. So since this is a very good spot and we like the idea of driving farmers market, because as you see people driving, there's no gathering of 10, 15, 20 persons. So we are going to see if we can get other outsiders, outside our people, to join in. In fact, we're talking to somebody to bring in products for Friday, which we're going to have another farmers market. But they're not on our farm. But they have eggs, they have every single thing you're thinking of. Because one of the reasons why we have gotten into this is because we have our agro parks, where we have farmers on the agro parks, and they normally have connection with the hotels, etc., and they have lost that market. So we don't want them to invest so much in agriculture and lose their crop. So we decided to have this. So let's say next month they have a lot of crops and can't get it sold again. We could repeat this.
The drive-through farmers market allows Jamaicans to buy local and eat local. For the news on PBCJ, I'm Marlon Samuels.
Vendors at the Charles Gordon Market in Montego Bay have been supplied with over 450 reusable protective face masks by the Custos of St. James, Bishop Conrad Pitkin. The washable masks have been manufactured using the specific recommendation of the Ministry of Health and Wellness. The People's National Party caretaker for East Central St. Catherine, Dr. Winston Delahaye, has resigned with immediate effect after reportedly receiving a threat on his life. He made the announcement on Twitter. Dr. Delahaye says he intends to continue contributing to Jamaica's development. The PNP has acknowledged his resignation and says it will act expeditiously to identify a standard bearer in the constituency. And for the latest in the world of business, we join Gabrielle Thompson for the Business Report.
In Tuesday's trading session, the JSE combined index declined by 11,090 points to close at under 400,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 68 stocks, of which 17 advanced, 41 declined, and 10 traded firm. The junior market index advanced by 17 points to close at under 3,000 units. Stocks advanced for Consolidated Bakers Jamaica, Express Catering Limited, and First Rock Capital Holdings. Stocks declined for Barita Investments Limited, Berger Paints Jamaica, and Blue Power Group. Trading firm were G West Corporation Limited, JMMB Group 7.5%, and Lumber Depot Limited. Radio Jamaica was the volume leader with 66.7 million units, followed by Trans Jamaican Highway Limited with 14.7 million units and Wigton Limited Ordinary Shares with 6.6 million units. The US dollar on Tuesday, April 28, ended trading at $142.80. The Canadian dollar sold for an average $103.33. The pound sterling traded for $177.99, and the euro ended trading at $156.27. Oil prices gained on Wednesday after U.S. stockpiles rose less than expected and gasoline stocks fell, and buoyed by hopes demand will improve as some European countries and U.S. cities moved to ease coronavirus lockdowns. Brent crude futures were up 47 cents to $20.93 a barrel. West Texas Intermediate crude jumped $1.55 to $13.89 a barrel after plunging 27% over the first 2 days of this week. And that's it for the Business Report on PBCJ. I'm Gabrielle Thompson.
Simone Absalom looks at prevented COVID-19 in the workplace in this week's edition of Living Healthy.
We should all play our part in preventing the spread of COVID-19 in the workplace. Here are some tips. Follow distancing measures to protect yourself and others in the workplace.
Because each and every individual matters.
Stay informed with information from credible sources like the Ministry of Health or the PBCJ television station and its social media platforms. Reduce your risk of catching the virus by avoiding crowded public transport. Avoid using your hand to touch frequently used surfaces like door handles or staircase railings. You can help maintain physical distancing at work by using the staircase instead of the elevator. And when you get home, avoid going outside, especially if you're not feeling well, even if it's the mild cold. Find no contact ways of greeting your colleagues. Maintain physical distance between people when in a meeting or break room. Wash your hands throughout the day. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Disinfect frequently used surfaces. Ventilate your workspace by keeping the windows open if possible. While maintaining physical distance, stay social. So how is mommy? Regularly check in with your colleagues, family, and friends.
In regional news, Executive Director of the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, CDEMA, Ronald Jackson, is leaving the agency after 7 years of service. He demits office on Thursday, April 30. Mr. Jackson was appointed Executive Director of CDEMA on April 3, 2013, and led CDEMA's coordinating unit. CDEMA says it is extremely appreciative of Mr. Jackson's service and the legacy he leaves in building a culture of safety and disaster-resilient region. The People's Republic of China has donated protective personal equipment, PPE, and other much-needed medical equipment to the Ministry of Public Health in Guyana. InfoHub's Kellon Rover tells us more.
The items were handed over on Monday during a simple ceremony held at the Public Health Minister's Secretariat, Brigham. Among the items received by the ministry's permanent secretary, Colette Adams, were protective face masks, infrared thermometers, medical protective goggles, and isolation shoe covers.
On behalf of the Ministry of Public Health and the government of Guyana, I would like to thank the Chinese government and the people of China.
Deputy Chief of Mission at the Chinese Embassy, Chen Zilai, said China and Guyana have a profound international relationship since 1972, and it is important for the two nations to cooperate even as they battle a global pandemic.
That's why the first batch of PPEs, or medical supplies, now have arrived at Guyana, and we are able to do this transfer. And according to my knowledge, there will be more coming. And I think that through the joint efforts of the Chinese government and the Guyanese government that we can fight, we can win this battle against coronavirus.
Director of the Department of International Cooperation at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Forbes Jubilee, explained that the timely gesture by China is as a result of the country's international bond.
The ministry has also been involved with the Chinese embassy in terms of facilitating an exchange by Chinese experts on COVID-19. But beyond that, we see it as a much more extended process, because COVID-19 obviously is not only affecting lives, but livelihoods. And the economic impact would certainly be dire, and as we're seeing. And so we see at Foreign Affairs, we see it as the next stage in terms of engaging our international cooperation partners in terms of alleviating and mitigating the economic and obviously social effects.
For InfoHub, I am Kellon Rover.
Director of the Pan American Health Organization, PAHO, Dr. Carissa Etienne, is prodding regional governments to maintain routine vaccination programs amid growing COVID-19 cases, warning that faltering could lead to other disease outbreaks, resulting in health systems buckling. She notes that PAHO has issued detailed guidance to countries to help plan and make decisions on what vaccines to prioritize during the COVID-19 pandemic, considering both the potential risks and the burden of the pandemic on their health systems. Dr. Etienne was speaking on Tuesday at a weekly virtual briefing hosted by PAHO. Over in the Bahamas, a resolution to extend the state of emergency to May 30 was recently tabled in Parliament. The extension of the emergency orders would provide for the competent authority, the Prime Minister, to continue existing measures, including the 24-hour curfew and weekend lockdowns.
With the touch of a single button, they may connect instantly with care agents. They may send an emergency assist alert for rapid response, and they may also talk to family and friends in a secured space. This app will be designed to help individuals in home quarantine and isolation to stay within the boundaries prescribed by the surveillance team. This may further empower these individuals to do their part to protect their mother, father, sister, brother, neighbor, fellow citizens, and reduce the risk of exposure to and spread of COVID-19 within the country.
The new orders are backed up by a fine of up to $20,000, 5 years imprisonment, or both. The government is also considering an app.
In keeping with the protocols of other countries, the government, Mr. Speaker, is finalizing plans to secure a mandatory quarantine facility to accommodate the return of a number of Bahamians in the United States to New Providence. At present, there are over 200 Bahamians who want to return home during the lockdown of our borders. And we are finalizing plans to bring those individuals home.
In sports, Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games Organizing Committee President Yoshiro Mori says the Olympic Games should be scrapped if it cannot be held in 2021. President of the Jamaica Athletics Administrative Association, J3A's Dr. Warren Blake, says he is in agreement. Health experts are doubtful that the Games could be held next summer without a vaccine or effective drugs to treat COVID-19. However, Dr. Blake says that the organizing committee should not rush before making a decision on the go-ahead of the Olympics next year. And that's our package. Join us again, same time tomorrow, same place, for more news and sports right here on PBCJ, the People's Station. We're encouraging you to keep safe.